It's 6 o'clock, so we'll call this meeting of the Blount County Board of Zoning Appeals to order. The first thing on the agenda is the roll call, and as soon as John returns, we'll do that.
Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
Yes.
This is roll call. Larry Chesney.
Here.
Bruce Damrow. Stan Hedrick. Brian King. Joe Everett. You have a quorum.
Okay. The first item on the agenda, would you please turn off your cell phones? The next item is the approval for the last meeting minutes, which was on July the 7th. Stanley moved to approve. Do I hear a second? Second. Joe seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. The last meeting minutes are approved. We have a larger attendance tonight than usual, so I'd like to take just a moment to explain the normal procedure for our meetings. You have an agenda in front of you, and unless there's an issue with some of the board members, we will take it in the order that it's on the agenda. We will ask each person as we go to that subject if there's anyone in favor of granting that variance. And that person will come and speak to us in the microphone. You'll be asked to tell us your name. And then we may have a few questions for that person. And then we'll give anyone who is opposed to granting the variance, ask them to come up and do the same. And we'll do that as we go through each individual item. And we hope that each of you that want to speak and address the committee will be allowed to do that. So we'll take question and answers to each person as they're there, or we may call you back up if we want a clarifying question. Okay? So the first variance request is, to start with, John will give us a very brief summary of each of these items. So John, the first one is 906 Tyler Drive.
That is 1906 Tyler Drive by Clayton Homes for Sharon Curtis. There was an error in the previous consideration of this case. The request assumed a front property line that wasn't actually the front property line. I've given you the information in a survey, and the first order of business should be to rescind the June 2nd variance approval and to rehear the case based on present information. So if you could have an action to rescind the previous approval.
So I need an order, a recommendation, motion. Brian makes a motion to rescind the June 2nd variance approval. Do I hear a second? Second. Stanley seconds. All in favor, aye. Aye. Do I need a roll call?
No, I think if you can, voice vote is just sufficient for that.
It was unanimous.
Okay.
Okay, now the second one.
The remainder of this is going to be the reapplication with the correct information. The proposal is for a new mobile home or manufactured home on the property. There's an existing structure there now. The two surveys that you see in your packet, one is for the present structure. Actually, it's the last survey is for the present structure. The new unit is shown being placed on the property as a 28 by 40 foot manufactured home. To do that and not encroach on the septic, it would require variance of the front setback, which is shown appropriately on the survey. I think it's 5 feet is what they are asking for. And the other variances are for side setbacks. The side setbacks vary on this from 6 feet to 3 feet because the unit is being angled into the property. I note that the existing parking area to the side of the existing house would no longer be functional. I'm not sure exactly how parking of a vehicle would be accommodated on the lot. The existing dwelling contains about 730 square feet. The proposed new dwelling contains 1,120 square feet. And that's all the facts I have to that case.
Anyone here in favor of this request? Come up and speak. Give us your name.
Good evening again, guys. Sorry about the last meeting. I didn't do my homework.
And your name, please?
Ron Stolfus, I'm with Clayton Homes.
Ron.
Ron
Last name?
Stolfus,
Spell it.
Stoltzfus.
Okay, Ron.
Again, I apologize for my previous meeting, not having all my facts straight. Sharon is actually with me here tonight, the property owner, and we have changed homes to accommodate the side. I've actually done another survey, if I may give it to you and take a look. Is that okay?
That's okay. Ron, how does that different from the survey that we received?
Setbacks on the sides are going to be around 6 foot, 5.5 actually. So you have access to both sides easily. I'm still off the front setback. Got pictures of the area. When I did this survey,
So that was 3 initially on the one we got.
yeah,
Let me ask you a question on this. The front setback.
He's showing 5.6 setback instead of the 3 that we were given.
Okay, so you'd be 0 here and about 7 feet maybe there. Okay.
to the side setbacks, I wanted to make sure that we had access to the back of the property.
Okay, that's good.
Taking pictures of the area down in that area.
Could you go to the microphone?
Again, I've taken pictures of the area down there, and there are homes that are basically encroaching the setback according to my surveyor, which is Mark Caboni. And if I may pass these around and let you see these too.
So, making sure I understand. We have a 10-foot setback requirement on the sides. He's now proposing a 5.5. So he's asking for a 4.6 variance.
More or less.
Okay. And the front setback variance he's asking for is what?
To 0 on the corner of the house. In other words, it'd be a 30-foot variance down to 0 setback from the right-of-way line.
And the 30 feet begins at the center of the road?
No, that was the problem the last time. The property seems to go to the center of the road. The setback is actually from the right-of-way line and not the center of the road. The right-of-way line defines where you need to have the setback for the house. So that house is moved up basically to within 20 feet of the center line of the road, but actually corners, it seems to me on that survey, corners on the actual right-of-way line.
Right.
So Ron, how far is it from the front of your proposed
From the front, about 8 foot from the road, I
to
guess.
the edge of the road?
Pardon?
From the front of the house to the edge of the road?
About 8 foot, about 7 foot is what no, it's about 8 foot. If I put it in there at an angle.
You can't park a car there.
Pardon?
You can't park a car there.
I've got a current plat map of the current house setting. We'd be parking the car in the front, basically in the setback, in the right of way.
That's not quite what the new survey showed.
No. That is the old, that's the plot of the Footprint, that's the footprint of the original house.
And
When we did this, when my surveyor went out there to do the survey, there had never been a survey done on the entire block.
Pass that back down.
So he did the entire survey on the entire block down there.
Did you say you've pull the other one out and put another one in?
Do what, sir?
Did you say you pulled the one that we approved last week or last month out and pulled another one in?
Yeah, because I couldn't meet it. I couldn't meet your setback.
no, they haven't pulled anything in.
We haven't
Still
done
there.
The
anything.
existing house is still
No,
there.
I haven't done a thing. I haven't broke ground. I haven't done a thing. All I've done is more due diligence as far as trying to help this lady get a house.
It's not clear to me yet where they're gonna park the cars. How much, if it's 7 feet from the front of the house to the edge of the road, you can't park a car there.
It's just 7 feet to there, it's 0 here, so it's an angle.
But to the edge of the road
Oh,
is,
to the edge, that's center line, I don't know where the edge of the road is. Edge of the road's probably, 6 feet, 7 feet off the center line.
Did you say
7 feet.
last month you couldn't put a smaller one in there, or is this the smallest one you have?
The last month, I was trying to put it in sideways.
Yeah.
It was a 24 by 46. With the variance that I got, I was still 7 foot away from the setback on the septic tank and trying to meet the side septics. So the only way to actually make this work is put the house in at an angle facing the road and ask for a variance on the side and the front setback.
The same house.
No, it's a 28 by 40. It's shorter because the lot, the thing is, the lot's very tiny. It's 1.112 acres, 52, about 50 foot wide and about 84 foot deep, and that's it. And the septic tank is smack dab almost in the middle or the side of the property, and to stay off that, that's why I moved to a 28 by 40.
any other questions for Ron?
Like I said, I've got pictures, gentlemen, if you'd like to take a look.
Anyone? Yes, Brian would like to see them.
I got pictures of the current structure and then properties all the way down through the road.
I guess it's probably about 8 feet off center line at the most, so you probably got 12 feet.
There are single wides and double wides up and down the strip. The house beside it has junk almost within 2 foot of the right of way of the road.
Would a single wide fit?
No,
You think it-
because then I'd be encroaching the field line. The current structure needs to be demolished, tore down. There's cracks in it where you can see the outside. She's losing heat, she's losing cooling. She's got 2 air conditioning units.
If you were to put a custom home on here, what would you build custom? Different from what these dimensions are. If you were to put a custom home, what would the dimensions be? Width, length, versus what you got right here, right now?
Versus what?
Versus this.
If I could build a custom home
Yeah.
that, okay,
What would it be to fit that?
24 by 44. I mean, 24 by 42, but they don't, Clayton's done, I checked every plant that we have. I don't have anything that'll be able to do that. I had a 24 by 46, but they won't shorten the width. Because everything has to go through the state. These plans are drawn up, they have to get engineered and drawn and stamped with approval. That one is stamped and approved.
Would you say this is like the smallest one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Question. Is this a double wide?
Yes, it is.
So you didn't consider a single wide?
Single wide won't fit because, Brian, right? Like I said, it would encroach the field line from behind the house, because the smallest 3-bedroom is what I need. It's 56-foot box. No, actually 66, my bad. So I'm 66, and the property's only 84 depth.
What's the smallest single wide you make?
The smallest, a 1-bedroom, 1-bath.
Would that fit on here?
It probably would, yes, sir, but it wouldn't accommodate the customer. I understand. This lady has paid $27,000 for this house. I've got
Without getting too personal, I mean, how many people are going to be in the dwelling?
3, right, Sharon?
3? Okay.
I'll introduce you to Sharon. This is Sharon Curtis.
Hello,
There'll be 3
Your name,
people,
please?
correct, living in the property?
Your name, please?
Sharon Curtis.
Sharon Curtis. And you're the homeowner,
Yes, sir.
okay? Any questions for the homeowner?
Sharon, have you been in contact with any other home builders? Nothing against Clayton, but, you know, is there another one out there that would fit on this lot? Do you know, or is this just the first one that you contacted and thought about buying from? And
This is the first one, yes.
So, yeah, someone, okay. And like I said, I'm not trying to deter you from it, but I'm just saying, you know, trying to touch all avenues and see if we can get.
In the business today, there's only, in Knoxville, all the independents have gone bye-bye,
Yeah.
okay? I mean, there's Oakwood, there's Love, there's a lot of them out there, however, they're all Claytons.
Gotcha.
What are you gonna do if you don't get this home put on there? Still living, what are you gonna do if you don't get this mobile home put on? Still live there or move?
Well, financially, I can't really move or buy anything else, so sell it, most likely, which I'm not gonna get anything out of it. We already know that. So most likely live in it.
How long have you been living there? How long have you been?
6 years,
6 years?
6, 7 years, about 7.
Sir? Yes, sir. Have you looked at a layout of the septic system that's installed? And is there?
Yes, we had a COV done and they approved it.
Okay. Is there a reserve area?
Yes.
Do you know how long this system's been in place?
Pardon me?
How long is the septic?
How old is the house? Is it a very old septic system?
When did you put the septic in?
When I got it,
I'm sorry, ma'am.
when I bought it.
Okay. And that was?
6 years.
2009. is-
2009.
5/15 is when she made her first payment on the house of 2009.
Any other questions for this group? Okay, anyone here opposed to this request? Any other questions for these, or do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we deny. I feel for them, but this is just not a good fit. There are mobile homes out there that would fit on it, but basically come up and have a 0 setback on the front. We've never done that. I don't think we should now.
Okay, I have a motion to deny by Stanley. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Brian seconds. So the vote, if you answer yes, is to deny.
I'll call the roll.
Yes.
Bruce Damrow. I'm sorry, he is not here. Larry Chesney,
Yes.
Stanley Hedrick,
Yes.
Brian King,
Yes.
Joe Everett.
Yes.
That motion passes
Okay, so
to deny.
to deny, and then you inform them in writing of
I
that.
will do that.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, the second.
Y'all have all the handouts in that record.
I'll let that.
Can I ask one quick question, sirs?
Sure.
Can you tell me what the actual setbacks are on this property?
The standard setbacks are 30 on the front, 10 on the side, and 20 in the rear. Now, we realize that that's a very small lot, and you really just have a sliver, but those are the setbacks.
Quick question. I know you guys were asking about a single wide. What is the process of doing that?
You'd be coming in for I'm sorry. You would be coming in for, I presume, some variances on the front and possibly the rear to put one in, but your biggest concern, I think, from the way you described it, is the septic field.
Is there any way to reconstruct the septic field?
I'd suggest you talk to Gary Ferguson on that. There might be.
There might be.
Yeah, if you had reserve area, then it could be put in the reserve area, but he would then have to find reserve area again.
I've always been told you can never move a septic tank itself. Can that be moved over? Or is that another Gary?
You need to talk to Gary Ferguson on that. I'm not competent to answer that question.
Okay, we'll get with Gary on Monday.
All right,
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay, the second variance request is for the front setback on 512 Clearwater Circle in Townsend.
Okay, the application and supporting information is attached to the memo. The property is identified as 512 Clearwater Circle. Dwelling is already established on the property. The proposal is an addition of a garage, a detached garage. The variance is for 20 feet of required 30-foot front setback, that is to within 10 feet of the front lot line, due to slope of the land and location of septic tank. In the past, variances of front setback have been granted due to the slopes involved in many lots in Laurel Valley development. Factors for consideration of the variance request are provided separate, and just for the record, you did have the general excerpts for variances.
Anyone here in favor of this request? Hi.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Sharon Oliver.
Okay.
My husband and I are the homeowners, and we'd like to have this setback changed so that we can put our garage closer to the road, because our septic tank would be covered up if we set it back to 30 feet. And it would also cover up one of our windows. We can't put it on the other side because we'd have to move our air conditioner. We'd have to have probably our water and our cable and our electric all moved. So this was the easiest and simplest place to put it. We'd still have the parking lot on the other side, to where if we had company, we wouldn't be parking in the road or anything.
Any questions for Sharon?
Is this an enclosed garage or carport?
It's going to be an enclosed garage, and there'll be a breezeway connecting it to the house.
Sharon, you're locating it where the trees have been cut. You still got to get the stumps out, right?
Yes.
Any other questions for Sharon? Do I hear a motion? Oh, sorry. Anyone here opposed to this request? Okay. This is a steep slope, and it's compatible with others in that area.
Motion to approve.
Joe, motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Brian. Roll call. Yes is to approve.
Larry Chesney?
Yes.
Stanley Hedrick?
Yes.
Brian King?
Yes.
Joe Everett?
Yes.
You have that motion passed.
Motion passes. Thank you very much, Sharon.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. The third item is a variance for the side setback and lot size on 1436 and 1440 Blockhouse Road.
This comes with a little history. There were a lot of houses built down there on a plan for division that was for old lot sizes, and those houses or mobile homes were established based on that factor. This comes to you for variance of two things. One is for lot size on lot 5. The other is for side setback on lot 6.
Anyone here in favor of this request? Anyone here opposed to this request? It's very unusual for no one to appear as in favor of a request. Well, let's talk about it just a second, guys. There's nothing changing or being added. It's a matter of dividing a lot, one lot, into two lots.
Well, it's dividing a part of a larger parcel into two lots to encompass two existing houses. I just want to point out that the Planning Commission has approved the plat with their variances, subject to the Board of Zoning Appeals granting variances.
John, is it your understanding that if we would approve this, that each of these owners could get to their septic field without going on the adjacent property? And they're...
Yes, I mean, they both have sufficient frontage to get to their septic field.
So then the issue would be that back mobile home being close, being 7 feet versus 10.
Well, actually, it's the double-wide mobile home. That's an existing situation, but we can grant that also, but that's an existing situation. The other one is being the nonconformity or the variance is required for the existing double-wide because you're creating a new lot line.
That one?
That one.
Yes.
Yeah. This one is already at that point because those lots are already created.
Okay. So that's not an issue because it's already approved?
Well, it's already there.
It's grandfathered?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. John, you said existing lot line. Is the new lot line is the line that goes between the two homes?
That's correct.
Okay. But all the other lot lines are existing?
Actually, the parcel 100 is an existing lot line. The lot 4, lot 2, and lot 3 are existing lot lines. The other lot lines are actually new, but I guess you'd call it the farthest lot line to the south on the double-wide property, that lot 6 is just going up towards a creek. And then there's the remaining land of the property. That lot 4 already meets the standards of size. The only thing is that the lot 5 goes below the 30,000 square foot minimum, and creating the lot line and accommodating the septic fields gives a smaller setback than is required.
Thank you.
They're doing this so they can have different ownership of the
Yes.
two lots.
Mhm.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
If we don't do anything on this tonight, we're gonna have to come back next month and
That would be an option to defer.
I have an option to defer. If I show up, they need to show up.
So I hear a comment, but I would need a motion to defer.
Yes.
So if we want to do that, I would need a motion to defer.
Make a motion to defer.
Brian makes a motion to defer. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Stanley seconds. So a yes vote is to defer to the next meeting.
Roll call, Larry Chesney,
Yes.
Stanley Hedrick,
Yes.
Brian King,
Yes.
Joe Everett.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that request has been deferred to our next meeting. The next item on the agenda is the side setbacks at 123 Sundance Road in Maryville.
Okay. The application and supporting information was provided in the memo, including a aerial photograph, which is the best we had. The proposal is for a 20-foot length of the driveway being covered by carport. That would put the carport itself close enough to the line to require variance. Do you have any dimensions to the property line that would add to this? Okay, it's approximately 3 foot. I think what you could do if you want to approve this is just to grant a variance for the carport, the width of the driveway plus 1 foot. And that would establish the distance from the house, and everything else could be, you know, whatever it is to the property line.
Okay.
The 1 foot would be where the post would be. The carport would be attached to the house. You'd have posts at the edge of the concrete of the drive, and that would be the variance distance from the house.
Anyone here in favor of this request?
Owner's here.
Okay.
I'm Mary Turner. I'm the homeowner.
John, I have a question for you and Mary. Her neighbor has the same thing. The house next to her has a carport covered, and it looks like this one is going to be just matching her neighbor's. Is that
Well,
correct?
actually, the neighbor has their carport on her property for a short distance, as far as we can tell. But that's the way it was divided.
My relatives own the house next door to me. They deeded the lot that my house is on to my sister and her husband. And my property actually has a little bit of their extended carport.
Okay, thank you. It looked to me like what she's asking for is no different than what her neighbor's got. So it actually it's better.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Any questions from Mary? Anyone here opposed to this request? Comments from the board? Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Stanley moves to approve. Second?
Second.
Joe? Joe seconded? Roll call. Yes is to approve the variance.
Larry Chesney?
Yes.
Stanley Hedrick?
Yes.
Brian King?
Yes.
Joe Everett?
Yes.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Now we're moving into the special exemptions. And this is to change from real estate office to party and meeting venue at 1660 Saddle Ridge Road.
This one took a little more research than the simple variances because you need to establish a few things before you can actually act on this. What I did is would look at two alternatives. One, whether this could be accommodated in the present zone. I found that it could not be accommodated as a venue because we don't have that listed as a use in the zone. The second is to go by what is actually being asked, and that is to change from a real estate office to a venue operation. And the venue is defined generally by the owner as a place to accommodate meetings and parties on a commercial basis. Might include tents, and I think there also has been, from discussions with the neighbors, there might also be a proposal to expand the existing house, but I didn't get that on the site plan. Second, the present claimed use as a real estate office has to be established as a non-conforming use for you to be allowed to make a decision to grant a special exception to a change of use. And here's where it gets a little bit cloudy. There was a real estate office at that location. Looked into the business licenses. They looked back into the history of that property, and the last business license expired in 1998. So it hasn't at least been used based on business license for anything commercially since that time. Second, though, on the tax records, it shows a commercial evaluation or evaluation assessment for 1 acre. Now, that 1 acre is not a definitive acre. I think there was some confusion in discussions on that. The 1 acre is just an accommodation and accounting of something within that 5 acres that they were going to actually tax as commercial. And that has been continuous at least since 2011 on the records that I could find. So I think first you need to establish the accuracy of the claim that this is a existing commercial use, non-conforming commercial use, and you need to base that based on evidence. I would suggest that you do that first. If this cannot be established, the request should be denied for not meeting minimum criteria for consideration. Beyond that, I think we can stop at that point and try to get that confirmation before you continue on. There's other things that you need to consider about change of non-conforming use, in particularly whether there be a greater impact than the existing use. So I would suggest you focus first on establishing the continuous commercial use. A non-conforming commercial use loses its status after 30 months of abandonment. And abandonment means that it is not used for that purpose or is not marketed for that purpose. I could not find any information on marketing. That was sent to me late today, and we sent it out to the members in email. I'm not sure everybody got that, but I think there are people here that can attest to that if you wish. So I would stop on page 2, about 2/3 of the way down, and confirm the non-conforming status of the area, the property.
Okay, based on your research, you have confirmed that that property has not been used for commercial use over the previous 30 months.
I can't confirm that because I haven't observed it myself. And neither can I. If it had been used for commercial use, it didn't have a business license. That's about as far as I can say.
Okay, well, this is a little gray area, but does anyone in the room have any evidence that you can provide to us that this property has been used for commercial use over the previous 30 months? Okay, so the answer isn't no.
Well, the owner just said he could not
Could
provide
not.
that.
Okay, so based on that, that is not an option for us. And we have to reject that part of the alternative to approve.
I would suggest if the owner could come forward and state whether he accepts that.
You want to step forward, please?
That is not a non-conforming use that has had currency within the last 30 months. That might establish it from the owner's standpoint.
Okay, you mind stepping up to the mic, please?
Other than that, I think the audience has some other evidence to the contrary.
But if he confirms that it's not, then they don't need to do anything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, your name, please?
My name is Perry Birchfield. I have some packets prepared for the place, but that does not address that situation. I have not owned the property but a few months, and I bought it with the understanding, because of the tax scroll, that it was commercial property, because it has been taxed for who knows how many years as commercial property, 1 acre if so. But I cannot confirm that it has been used for commercial use because it was sold at auction due to some faults of the Davis family, which lost the property through, at one time, lost it through where they hadn't paid the property tax. And then they come back and had an auction, and it was bought by a Mr. Staley that started remodeling at that time. And I bought it from Mr. Staley with the understanding, of what it was, because that is what it is charged with on the county tax records, as being 1 acre zoned for commercial, 4 acres in the zone of residential. And I was not even aware that it could all be used until Mr. Lamb informed me this week for commercial property, regardless of what it was at that time. If, it fell in the zone, but it all affected the whole property. Maybe I didn't say that the proper way.
Well, I just want to correct that statement. I never made a statement that the whole property can be used at present for commercial use. The board can consider the whole property for change of use, but it is not presently
Right.
able to
I'm sorry.
expand.
Yeah. But I was obstructed, not obstructed, it's not the right word. I had talked to Roger Fields, the gentleman who had the job before Mr. Lamb, as how to approach it to use it for commercial property, and he says I need to apply for a change of usage. And so here I stand before you.
Okay, let's take this one step at a time. First, let's address what John has pointed out on the middle of page 2. And we have no information that this has been used as a commercial use over the previous 30 months. Okay, now, based on the information we have here tonight, what do we need to do to take that off of the table?
Well, basically, if you cannot establish the non-conforming status of the use for the past 30 months, you really don't have authority to make an action to approve it, and the appropriate action would be to deny.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
In my paperwork, it states, and I'll be glad to give you a copy, but before we get into all that the developer, the original developer, had the right to establish commercial property. And this was a long time before we had the zoning of such things, I believe. And I believe that in my intent that he used this property because of the location of where the gate is now and the location of where certain things are. This lot sits outside of the gate of Saddle Ridge subdivision. It is one of the properties of the subdivision, and in the restrictions and covenants of Saddle Ridge, the original restrictions and covenants, it says the developer has the right to declare any plot or properties, commercial or recreational, that he deemed necessary at that time, which was Mountain States Development Corporation. Would that be grandfathered in from that? There's my question.
Grandfathering is a loose term for non-conforming use. If it was declared, and it obviously was used as commercial use at least back until about 1998 when the business license was lapsed. And I'm sure they were selling the Saddle Ridge properties from that office as a real estate office, and it was taxed at that time, I would presume, as commercial. So that declaration is one thing. The county adopted zoning in the year 2000, and it was not a matter of declaration of an owner on a piece of property. It was actually it was use of the property. And according to state law and according to our regulations, for a non-conforming use to have currency, it has to have been used in the past 30 months for that use, or it has to have been marketed for that use. In other words, it has to be used for commercial, not just declared a long time ago, but used as commercial within the last 30 months. And I think you just stated that you have no evidence that it was marketed or, yeah.
Because nobody's lived there or done anything with it.
Okay, John, if we deny based on that, does he have any other alternative to come to us or anybody else?
For a venue,
Yes.
that's why I did the determinations at the very beginning, that my interpretation of the regulations leads me to believe that venue is not a use listed in the R2 zone, and to allow that would actually require a change of the ordinance text. You can't grant a use variance. There's no provisions in that.
So we don't have the authority, if we say, well, it doesn't meet the 30 months, then this board has no authority to grant him any kind of waiver.
Not at this time, no.
Who has that authority?
Like I say, I think it would require a change of the zoning ordinance itself, the text, to allow that use to occur in the R2 zone under whatever circumstance was deemed appropriate by the Planning Commission and the County Commission.
If I apply for a business that is on the list of the R2 zone, could this board grant me the usage of that? Or will the fact that it's not being used affect that?
There are provisions for home occupations. If you conduct the use totally within the structure, there are provisions for what is called, I think, family home enterprise. If you conduct that either within the structure itself or within a separate building. So that might be, but that would have to be something that is of a, how would I put it, fairly well recognized as something that is a home occupation. I'm not sure a venue would be considered as a standard home occupation. I mean, that would be up to the board. If you want to come back and try that, I'll be glad to put you on the agenda if you pay your fee like you did this time. But, you know, you're going to have to think, is that a standard home occupation?
Okay, so you're saying I could come back for a, how am I putting this? If it's not been used in 30 months and I want to do a home occupation, do I just have to apply for a home occupation then for it to be used?
For certain types of uses, and they are listed in the regulations. You were asking if you can come back for a commercial use.
Yes.
There are a limited list of occupations that are, limited list of commercial uses in the R2 zone for home occupation and family home enterprise.
I understand.
But I don't think it includes venue.
I understand that.
Okay.
But my question is, will the 30 months stop me from using it for another business that is listed?
You would come in, if you wanted to put a beauty shop there or something like that, that might be accommodated. I can discuss with you the list that is in the regulations. Beyond that list, it would require a determination by the Board of Zoning Appeals of whether that is a standard home occupation or family home enterprise.
Okay.
And it would be a special exception in that.
So if we deny this, are you his next contact? Who's his next contact?
That's my question.
I probably would be in the interim.
Okay, so now you know that he would be your next contact to see what your options are.
So you're saying anything that's on that list I could apply for?
It's things like beauty shops.
Barbershops, machine shops?
No, not machine shops. Things like professional office for a
Whatever is
doctor
on
or a
there.
nurse or something like that. I've had real estate people come in and establish a home occupation in a back room. Has to be subservient to the residential use of the property. Can't be
Okay.
the major use of the property. For
For the commercial use right now, it would be possible to probably go back to what it has been used for.
If the person who's going to occupy the house wants to conduct a real estate office in not a majority of the floor area of the house itself, in other words, that's not the major use in the house, that might be accommodated. But
Thank you.
that doesn't establish grandfathering. Okay.
Yeah, who would I go to about grandfathering?
I think what we're establishing tonight, that there is no grandfathering.
I don't know if you have that authority, but I'll take that.
Okay, I guess where we are now, we need to move on, and based on what we have, is deny the request And then we've told Perry that his next request, your next step, is to get with John and see what your alternatives are if you wish to pursue it.
All righty,
Is that fair?
that's fair.
Yeah.
At least
Thank you.
now we know what you need to do next.
That's all I needed to
want to
know.
make it, I want to get it clear for the record. Are you accepting that you cannot, in any definitive way, establish a non-conforming status of that property right now? In other words, it's not grandfathered for commercial use because it hasn't been used in the past 30 months for that use, and it hasn't been marketed in the past 30 months continuously for that use.
It's my house, I can live in it, can
Yeah.
I? Okay,
Yeah. Residential use is allowed in that zone.
okay.
Okay.
I mean, I'm in the construction business. I hope I could park my dump truck there. I drive it, you know, it's my house, my dump truck.
Let's discuss that in a different venue.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did you wish to address the board?
My name is John King, and from Knoxville, and I'm a property owner in Saddle Ridge. I have a cabin there, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, weekend vacation.
I'm
home.
sorry, just a moment. Our procedure is to see if there's anyone else in favor of the motion that wants to speak.
I guess I'm asking questions more than, I am in favor of his proposed
Okay,
use,
all
but I
right, go ahead.
understand y'all got a problem about getting to it.
Go ahead.
But my question was, how the establishment of the pre-existing use of this property. And I don't know about the dates where the license may have expired for that commercial utilization, but Ms. Davis and DCA had the contractor's license, and she also had a license for real estate, I believe, but they operated for a long time. I don't remember the year in which she died, but for a period of time after the death, you would have still had DCA, which was a corporate entity. And again, I don't know when that license expired. The only thing I could suggest that might weigh on the question of commercial use is that that has been, for lack of a better description, sort of a staging area for advertised property for sale in there. Anybody that wants to come look at that property contacts a real estate agent that's got it or whatever, and they stage up on that particular lot before they go in to be behind the gate and start actually looking at the property. I don't know whether that's relevant to your discussion or not, but that's the only kind of activity I can think of that might weigh on the question of how it's been used and up to when. It's still, I assume now, still available for that kind of use. But I was wanting to know if it's R2, is that right? How did there come to be the commercial utilization of the property while it was RT? Was that business there prior to the adoption of zoning? Is that the way it worked?
Well, I called the county clerk's office and I asked any history of a business license on that property, and they told me that the last record of a business license lapsed in 1998, and we
Okay.
adopted zoning in 2000. So at least from 1998 to 2000, there was no evidence of a business license there. But we're talking about actual use, and just because it was there before, 20 years ago or whatever, actually 16, 18 years ago, that doesn't establish the 30-month currency.
Yeah, I understand, but was the commercial use to get to the question of pre-existing use. Was that business use in place at the time you all adopted your zoning ordinance? Is that the way that got to be a non-conforming use to start with?
No, we're trying to establish whether it's a non-conforming use, and by evidence. And quite frankly, the only evidence I found lapsed in 1998 before we adopted zoning. So it's up to the board to determine, is there a present non-conforming use? And the only way to do that is to show that there was 30 months prior an activity that was commercial, or there was a marketing continuously in the public realm, marketing that property for commercial use within that 30 months.
Okay. And I assume that if it's zoned R2, it has the limited commercial use that you have described, and to do something other than what is described in there would require a rezoning of that particular piece of property?
In my opinion, it would require a change of the zoning text. We do not have a commercial zone that would fit that property. All the commercial zones that we have relate to collector status, or actually relate to arterial status roads, and Saddle Ridge is not an arterial road. It's not like a 411, north or south.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So a rezoning to try to do any commercial utilization, such as he is describing, you couldn't do it because it wouldn't work because of the road situation.
In my opinion, it wouldn't work because it doesn't meet the minimum criteria of application of any of our commercial zones.
Okay.
Okay, John, I have a question. Sure. I know it's impolite to point, but.
I understand that it's not been used in 30 months, but the county seems to think it is because it's had the tax paid on it for a long time for commercial zoning. And I was wondering how we go about, either we put it in commercial and make it commercial, or we take it out and I get some money back,
The way the tax works, they don't go down and necessarily change it automatically because they will not have that information. You can go petition the assessor's office and they'll probably change it to residential.
Because I would feel like you would owe somebody some money back who's owned it ever since whenever. If it's not there, it's just not there.
I think there was some evidence that one of the sales was because of lack of payment of taxes. So they weren't paying residential or commercial taxes, and it went up for sale on the courthouse step.
Well, yeah, but they backed up and had to pay them, but that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, but I can
You could
apply
probably
for it to
petition
get
the
the
assessor's
tax
office.
take off of it.
Yeah, you could probably petition the assessor's office, but I don't know what the procedure is on that.
As far as usage is commercial, I cannot prove any usage of commercial there, other than every real estate person that's ever sold a lot in Saddle Ridge comes to that gatehouse and meets their clients and they go. Now, if that's considered usage, I'll take it. But as far as me, myself, I can't prove it. I don't know of any business license there. I've not owned the property but a few months, and you know that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, John, here's my question. We have, I'm assuming, several folks here that would like to speak in opposition to this, but based on what you've described, I'm not sure we have a choice to make. So my question is there any, if we don't have a choice, other than to deny it, do we want to let the folks who are opposed to this speak? Because it's not going to make any difference anyway.
Well, I think since you're considering the non-conforming status, and there has been some information passed on to the board through email was sent to us on the non-conforming status of the property. If the audience wants to speak just to that issue and not any other issue at all at this point, I think that it'd be appropriate to have them speak.
Okay, so they would be limited to speaking related to the previous 30 months of commercial use.
Yes.
Okay, does anyone in the audience want to speak to that very limited set of circumstances? Okay, come up and give us your name, please.
Steve Suggs,
Steve
S-U-G-G-S.
Suggs, okay. So, okay, Steve?
I've owned property there for over 20 years, and for the past 30 months, it has not been used continuously as a commercial enterprise.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ma'am?
My name is Barbara Clennon-Smith, C-L-I-N-A-N-S-M-I-T-H. And my husband and I have lived there for 17 years. We bought the property from the Davises out of that office. And Juanita died in 2010, Jack had died in 2008, and there has not been a real estate office working out of that building all this time. We're permanent residents, we drive in and out often, and we get our mail down there, so we get a chance to see what's going on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am?
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Ann Tedford, T-E-D-F-O-R-D. I will make my comments brief. I will just echo that we have owned property in Saddle Ridge for 10 years. We've built a home 6 years ago, so we've lived there full-time for 6 years. In the 10-plus years that we've owned our property, we've frequently driven back and forth. Nearly every day we travel in front of, as one of my neighbors said, we are down at the mailbox every day going past the property, and I would just like to add my comments that in the 10 years that we've lived there, that the property has never been used for a real estate office or for any other purpose. In fact, it's set in disrepair. You couldn't even walk on the floors. It was not habitable. And there's never been any signage, there's never been any public marketing of that property. This may not be necessary, but I didn't know if testimony from the audience was helpful in making the decision. So that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Judith Pearson. I believe you should have in your possession an email from me, and I'm not going to go back over everything that's in there. But I wanted to re-emphasize something to you that is of great concern to myself. We have lived in Saddle Ridge for 11 years. We bought from Juanita and Jack in the year 2004. I myself have and can verify that building has not been used commercially. I have myself got out of my car and addressed real estate agents that are waiting at the gate for a potential customer to come in. They're never near the building. But my concern is this. In the past, over the 11 years, we have a neighbor who had a canoe stolen. My husband has lost an oscilloscope because somebody came up and picked the locks on the FedEx box at the kiosk. We have had, in parentheses, my husband's hobby is woodworking. He had a slab of maple that if he had bought it, it would have cost us $200 to $300. That was stolen from right up against our house. We have confronted poachers who have come up into Saddle Ridge. They park down on East Miller Cove Road. They've gone up into a neighbor's property and illegally poached ginseng. We've had bear hunters come in and go across in front of that house with Jeeps or ATVs or whatever they're using, and they're bear hunting in a subdivision where there are families, where there are children. And what I'm concerned about is if we change that to a venue, you open the door for other people to see what's there. Are those bear hunters going to use the driveway that he wants to put in? Now, he says he'll put a gate up across the parking lot, but those bear hunters ignored every rope, marker, whatever, and cut through the woods. So that means, evidently, he's going to have to fence the whole thing to keep us from continuing to have these problems. So, along with all the other things that can go on with a very small country road, which, when I was on the homeowners board, we were told by the county there is no money in the budget to improve that road, and that road, East Miller Cove Road, back to Saddle Ridge, 4 miles long, is no wider than basically a car width. And we've had a neighbor already on Saddle Ridge Road run into a truck coming up that road, and that's even narrower than East Miller Cove Road.
Your first name Judith?
Beg your pardon?
Your first name is Judith?
Yes.
Yes.
I am Judith.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll remind you that our comments are limited to the 30 months issue. Anyone else? Okay, John, do we need to make a motion?
Well, I'll read the paragraph on page 2, just for the record. Staff cannot confirm the status of continuous commercial use or marketing the property for commercial use over the previous 30 months. And this may need to be established by testimony at the meeting, and you've had quite a bit of testimony. If this cannot be established, that is the non-conforming status of the use, the request should be denied for not meeting minimum criteria for consideration.
So we need a motion to do that.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to deny.
Joe?
Joe.
Do I hear a second? Brian, seconds. So a yes answer is to deny.
Larry Chesney,
Yes.
Stanley Hedrick, Brian King, Joe Everett. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. We want to get one other thing on the, excuse me, guys. Hey, excuse me. Brian, Stanley, we want to get one other thing on the recording, and that is about the next month's meeting. We are proposing to move it from the 1st to the 8th. And we want to make sure that you guys are okay with that. September the 8th. Okay. Stanley and Brian and Joe all say yes, and Larry says yes.
Okay.
So we have a quorum of 4. John makes 5.
Well, I'll be here because I'm still employed.
Okay, is that what you needed?
That's what I needed.
All right, thank you. Everybody aye? Adjourn? Aye. Aye, yes. Motion to adjourn, aye.